Hello, and welcome back to Bedtime Stories with Vice Vice Baby. Tonight, I'll be reading you The Violet Fairy book by Andrew Lang. Story 1: The Goat's Ears of the Emperor Trojan. Once upon a time, there lived an emperor whose name was Trojan. He had ears like a goat. Every morning, when he was shaved, he asked if the men saw anything odd about him, and as each fresh barber always replied that the emperor had goat's ears, he was at once ordered to put to death. Now, after this state of things had lasted a good while, there was hardly a barber left in town that could shave the emperor, and it came to be turn of the master of the company of barbers to go up to the palace. But unluckily, at the very moment that he should have set out, the master fell suddenly ill, and told one of his apprentices that he must go to his stead. When the youth was taken to the emperor's bedroom, he was asked why he had come and not his master. The young man replied that the master was ill, and there was no one but himself who could be trusted with the honor. The emperor was satisfied with the answer and sat down, and let a sheet of fine linen be put around him. Directly the young barber began his work, remarked the goat's ears of the emperor, but when he had finished and the emperor asked his usual question as to whether the youth had noticed anything odd about him, the young man replied calmly, "No, nothing at all." This pleased the emperor so much that he gave him 20 ducats and said, "Henceforth you shall come every day to shave me." So, when the apprentice returned home, and the master inquired how he had got on with the emperor, the young man answered, "Oh, very well, and he says I am to shave him every day, and he has given me these 12 ducats." But he said nothing about the goat's ears of the emperor. From this time, the apprentice went regularly up to the palace, receiving each morning 12 ducats in payment. But after a while, his secret, which he had carefully kept, burnt within him, and he longed to tell it to somebody. His master saw there was something on his mind and asked what it was. The youth replied that he had been tormenting himself for some months and should never feel easy until someone shared his secret. "Well, trust me," said the master. "I will keep it to myself, or, if you do not like to do that, confess it to your pastor, or go into some field outside of town and dig a hole, and after you have dug it, kneel down and whisper your secret 3 times into the hole. Then put back the earth and come away." The apprentice thought that this seemed the best plan, and that afternoon went into the meadow outside the town, dug a deep hole, then knelt and whispered to it 3 times over, "The Emperor Trojan has goat's ears." And as he said so, a great burden seemed to roll off him, and he shoveled the earth carefully back and ran lightly home. Weeks passed away, and there sprang up in the hole an elder tree which had 3 stems, all as straight as poplars. Some shepherds, tending their flocks nearby, noticed a tree growing there, and one of them cut down a stem to make flutes, but directly he began to play, the flute would do nothing but sing, "The Emperor Trojan has goat's ears." Of course, it was not long before the whole town knew about the wonderful flute and what it said, and at last the news reached the emperor in his palace. He instantly sent for the apprentice and said to him, "What have you been saying about me to all my people?" The culprit tried to defend himself by saying that he never told anyone what he noticed, but the emperor, instead of listening, only drew his sword from his sheath, which so frightened the poor fellow that he confessed exactly what he had done, and how he'd whispered the truth 3 times to the earth, and how in that very place an elder tree had sprung up, and flutes had been cut from it, which would only repeat the words he had said. The emperor commanded his coach to be made ready, and he took the youth with him, and drove to the very spot, for he wished to see for himself whether the young man's confession was true. But when they reached the place, only one stem was left. So the emperor desired his attendants to cut him a flute from the remaining stem, and when it was ready, he ordered the chamberlain to play on it. But no tune could the chamberlain play, though he was the best flute player about the court. Nothing came but the words, "The Emperor Trojan has goat's ears." Then the emperor knew that even the earth gave up his secrets, and he granted the young man his life, but he never allowed him to be his barber anymore. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Bedtime Stories with Vice Baby. I hope you all have a good night and sweet dreams.